Hello, and welcome to our podcast, Ephesians Verse by Verse, brought to you by co-founder of Telios, Dr. William Stewart. This captivating podcast will not only teach you the book of Ephesians, which tells us so much about Christ and his mission, as well as our Christian walk, but it will teach you how to study the Bible, so you can have confidence in what you learn. Episodes will provide key points for each important verse of the book of Ephesians. Thanks for joining us on this exciting biblical journey.
Hello, I'm William Stewart. Welcome back to our verse-by-verse study on the book of Ephesians. We're in an exciting portion now where we've been talking about the Christian walk, which is encompassed in the book in chapters 4 to 6 in a general way. And we've talked about the basis within the church of our Christian walk in the first half of Ephesians 4. And then the second half, Paul comes to the point where he's talking about specifics, speaking first up through verse 19, 17 and 19, about what not to do, what we shouldn't be living like our old selves before we were Christians, and then now telling us how we should be living, again, based on the fact that we have been converted, become Christians, and he's telling us in a neat short passage here how that functions. And we're in verse 22 today that says that ye put off concerning the former conversation the old man, which is corrupt according to this deceitful lust. Okay, so what's this talking about here? So we're to put off concerning the prior conversation. Now, it's a little tricky here. Conversation is the Greek word, again, the original language of the New Testament, anastrophe, which means manner of life. It's translated into the Latin Vulgate by Jerome around 400 AD to conversation. And what's tricky is that in the Latin, it also means manner of life. It doesn't mean how we speak. And it came to us through the King James, or the version I read, translated around 1600 to 1610, as directly to conversation, which means to us how we speak. So it's highly probable that the translators of the King James back 400 years ago depended somewhat on the Latin as well as prior translations to the English that in the 1500s from the Greek and Latin to help them, because Greek studies at this point were not as advanced as they are now, having just started again in the early 1500s by Erasmus, the great humanist of the early 1500s from Holland. He put together the first Greek texts for Western Europe to be available in 1,000 years. So I think the Latin helped them, and so it helped them translate to the word conversation, which means speech to us, but to the Latins meant manner of life, which is what it means in the Greek. So you put off your former manner of life, the old man, which was corrupt according to its lust, which we covered a few verses ago. Now, what's it mean to put off? Well, this is also a little tricky. We've talked about the verb tenses in the Greek, and this again is the aorist tense, the punctiliar one-time tense, something we don't have in Western European languages, including English. They exist in Eastern European languages frequently. So this meant that a one-time incident, the old man, which refers, I believe, to the non-Christian self, was put off. It's consistent with verse 21 and its use of the aorist and how they were taught that the truth was in Jesus, otherwise talking about their conversion experience. So the old man was put off at our conversion and everything that accompanies it. Now that's important. That's part of our regeneration, which we'll complete this thought next time. But this is a huge theme in the New Testament. It's often ignored that when we become believers, we're regenerated to a new person. Titus 3:5. Another term for this is baptism, identified with from Romans 6, the best passage on this, verses 2 to about 11. That we're identified, this is spiritual baptism. The word baptism in its original means to identify with. So we're identified with Christ's death, and we're identified with his resurrection. So the old person dies, the old person is raised with Christ to new life. The old man's put off. We become a new man. Man is regenerated into something new. There's other examples of this in Scripture. Being born again. Christ in you, the hope of glory, being from Colossians 1:27, being made a new man in the image of Christ. This theme of new man, old man is also in Colossians 3, again using the aorist, implying that this change from the old man to the new man, which again we'll talk about next time, happened at the time of conversion. Now, some people who also don't think that you can use aorist to point to the fact that it happened at salvation versus something that's in a more continuous tense, like the present tense, happened all the time. This is more consistent with our Christian walk. Yet, Scripture in the epistles is very consistent with issues around conversion. This one-time tense is used like it is here, versus our Christian walk, which we do year after year after year, uses a continuous tense, like the present. Maybe too much to think about. It may seem difficult, but it's a wonderful aspect of the Greek that better helps us understand God and understand these verses. Okay, so what have we learned? We've learned that at conversion, the old man with its sinful ways was put off, and our whole manner of life. Next time, we'll talk about the opposite, what happens after the old man was put off. Good things. Join us then, you'll find out. I'll look forward to it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Ephesians Verse by Verse. We hope you found Dr. Stewart's teachings both interesting and informative. Join us next time for another exciting episode in Ephesians. To listen to all episodes, please visit our website, teliosresearch.com. TELEIOSRESEARCH. Thank you.